Yeshir Leili Nishmas, my father, Ovi Moira Pesach Moshe ben Ephraim, Zechat Tzadik Avracha. Today's is your tzeit. My dear father, who went through the Holocaust, all levels of hell, and he raised a beautiful family. Today's is your tzeit, Ovi Moira Pesach Moshe ben Ephraim. It's also Leili Nishmat Tzidav ben Chaim Pesach, and Leili Nishmas Batsheva's grandfather, Raphael ben Moshe, Leili Nishmatam. You know, the human soul is compared to a candle. It's a pasuk in Mishlei, Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. The human soul is compared to a candle of God. Why? Why dafka a candle? So the Talmud says, Ner lechad, ner lemeya. If you light a candle, there's one person in the room, or 100 people in the room. The one person benefits, and the 100 people benefit. But if the 100 people benefit, it doesn't take away from anybody else, right? You light one candle, there's 100 people in the room, they all get the same light, and no one suffers. They all get the same. So the same thing, when you dedicate a shir to different people, it's Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. It doesn't detract from my father, your grandfather, and from Herb. They all getting equally, the neshama gets an equal lift, because neshama is a candle, and you light a candle, one person, 100 people, they all get equal light, and no one detracts from the other person. So today's shir is going to talk about, we're going to read the book of Yonah when? On Yom Kippur. Isn't it strange that we read on Yom Kippur? See, Rosh Hashanah is only for the Jewish people. Rosh Hashanah is a universal holiday. The Mishnah says that Rosh Hashanah is a holiday for all men. All mankind is judged on Rosh Hashanah. Right? The world, the judgment of all mankind. But Yom Kippur is only for the Jewish people. Yom Kippur, unlike Rosh Hashanah, is only for the Jewish people. So the question is, the Radak asks, why do you read Yom Kippur, a book that deals with tshuva of non-Jews? Yom Kippur is exclusively for the Jewish people, so why read the book of Yonah, which deals with tshuva of non-Jews, when Yom Kippur is only for Jews? Hear the question? Good question. So Radak answers, it gives a Jew chizuk. Madach, non-Jews have no Yom Kippur, and God is willing to accept their tshuva. What's the proof? Yonah. They have no Yom Kippur, and God is willing to forgive them, so certainly God is willing to forgive us. But we have a Yom Kippur. So we are fortunate that we have a Yom Kippur, non-Jews don't, and God is willing to accept their tshuva without Yom Kippur. He's certainly willing to accept our tshuva, that we do have a Yom Kippur. But the book of Yonah is a strange book. Who is he running from? Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, right? What does he think why does he want to run? And why does Hashem send him to this city full of pagans, idol worshippers? And why do we need to know that God, to protect him from the sun, God made a castor oil plant grow over his head? Did you know that, Batsheva? A castor oil plant. Of all the plants that God could give him protection from the heat, the Navi will see soon, God gave him a castor oil plant. Why should I care, Michael? The Torah is GPS. The Torah is not what? A history book. Why should I care that the plant that protected Yonah from the fierce heat was a castor oil plant? What's the message? So let's take a look at side number 1. Also, the book of Yonah says that he built for himself a sukkah. Yonah, you'll see soon, he built a sukkah for himself. Now, I need to know, 28 years ago, he built a sukkah for himself. As he's sitting outside of the city waiting to see what's going to happen, he built a sukkah, then a castor oil plant grew over his head. What's the message? What's the GPS? So look at source, side number 1, source 6. Sukkot is coming up. Sukkot is a unique holiday. The other holidays are for the Jewish people. But somehow Sukkah is what? For the United Nations as well. Look at side number 1, source number 6. You see that? Yes. Rashi's commentary to Sukkah. On Sukkot, 70 bulls were offered. Ray, that's no bull. 70 bulls were offered on Sukkot. Why were 70 bulls offered on Sukkot? Why? Corresponding to the 70 nations. To atone for them, so that rain should fall throughout the world. It is. So we brought 70 bulls because the nations of the world are 70. So what are we bringing sacrifices for them for? This is because on Sukkot, when we are judged for water, that we will receive enough rain throughout the coming year. So somehow Sukkot has an aspect of what? Of a universal holiday. Yes. And therefore, unlike other Chagim, we brought 70 bulls. Source number 6. Shivim Parim, Parei Achag, Shivim Heim, Keneged Shivim Umot, Lechaper Eleim, that we are atoning for the nations that they should have enough rainfall. Because on Sukkot, God judges the world for what? Rain. Therefore, on Sukkot, they had the Nisach HaMayim. They poured, what did they pour on the altar on Sukkot? They poured water, right? So God should bless the rainfall. Now look at source number 7. This is from the book of Zechariah. Zechariah speaks about the great war of Gog and Magog. The war to end final war that will usher in the Messianic era. And Zechariah in source number 7 says, V'hoya kol hanotar mikol hagoyim haboyim al Yushalayim v'olu midei shana b'shana lishtachavod lamelech Hashem tzavaot v'lachog et chag HaSukkot. So we read this Haftorah when? On Sukkot. Why do we read this on Torah? There'll be a great war of Gog and Magog. And the survivors of the war, those that are left over who had invaded Jerusalem, Gog and Magog will invade Jerusalem and suffer a terrible defeat at the hands of the IDF. And then the survivors of that war will come up every year to worship God, the King, Master of the world, and to celebrate what? The festival of Sukkot. Wow. When Mashiach comes, says Zechariah, Sukkot will become what? A universal holiday. Even Iran will celebrate Sukkot when Mashiach comes. Why is that? Why is that? And we'll see later on, Yonah in Perek Dalet, he builds for himself a sukkah. Very mysterious. Sukkot will become a universal holiday. We read this Haftorah when? On Sukkot. Because the Kabbalah teaches that the war of Gog and Magog will take place when? Sukkot. So therefore it's appropriate to read Zechariah 14 on Sukkot, which describes the final war of Gog and Magog that will what? Usher in the Messianic era. Now the last time I checked in the Google, there is no such thing as Gog and Magog. Where is Gog and Magog? And which country is Magog? Where is that? So the word Magog has the same numerical value as Aum. Magog, who's good in Gematria? Mem, Vav, Gimel, Gimel is how much? 52. Gershom. How do you say UN in Hebrew? Ha'um. Remember Ben Gurion, Ha'um Shmum? Ha'um is what? Kawinky Dinky? UN. Ha'um in Hebrew is Hey Aleph Vav Mem, has the same gematria as what? As Magog. Ray, no Kawinky Dinky. Who is Magog that will invade Jerusalem at the end of time? Who? The United Nations. The United Nations will send their force to invade Jerusalem, to kick us out of so-called East Jerusalem. They'll suffer a terrible defeat. So, amazing, Magog has the same numerical value as the word UN in Hebrew. So they'll just suffer a terrible defeat, the UN will, and those that survive, Zechariah tells us in source number 7, will come up to what? Celebrate Sukkot. Even the Secretary General of the UN will come to celebrate Sukkot. Why Dafka Sukkot of all the Chagim? Why will Sukkot become a universal holiday? So look at source number 8. This is Emek Davar, the Netziv. You see source number 8? Because of this, we are told in Zechariah chapter 14 that in the future, even the nations of the world will come up on Chalamot Sukkot to stand by their sacrifices, because when Mashiach comes, they will have recognized the King, God, Master of the universe, and they, the nations, will know, the survivors of the war, that their sustenance relies what? On the Sukkot offerings that the Jewish nation brings on their behalf, such that were these sacrifices not to be brought, they would receive no rain. This was done in the time of King Solomon, and because of this, Solomon would recite the book of Kohelet. When did Solomon reveal the book of Kohelet? We also read Kohelet when? On Sukkot. Why? Because the first time Solomon revealed the book was when? Chalamot Sukkot. Solomon would recite Kohelet on Chalamot Sukkot before the sages of the nations, and consequently the only name of God that is mentioned in Kohelet is Elokim, because the nations were not familiar with what? With God's other names. Based on this, it has been a custom ever since to read Kohelet on Chalamot Sukkot, because the first time Solomon revealed the book was when? On Chalamot Sukkot, because many nations of the world came on Sukkot. So Kohelet has a universal theme, that God is not just the God of the Jewish people, He is God of all mankind. And the Beis HaMikdash is not just for the Jewish people. God tells Yeshayahu, Ki beiti beit tefillah yikareh l'chol ha'amim. My house is a house of prayer. I call what? All nations to come, not just the Jewish people. The Beis HaMikdash was not just for the Jewish people. All nations are called by God to come and worship Him in the Beit HaMikdash. And when Solomon dedicates the first temple, he prays, when the Nochri, the non-Jew, comes from far and wide, please accept his korban and hear his prayer. Solomon said, yes?
I found where Magog is.
Magog.
Magog, I found it. It says over here in this Google search that I did, it says it's in Turkey, modern day Turkey.
It's in Turkey, but last time I checked the map, I didn't see Magog anywhere on the map.
No, but
Magog. So I think it's the United Nations, has the same numerical value, right? Home, right?
It's a drink, 1,000 drinks.
Drinks what? Magog, right? Now, look at source number 9. God tells the prophet Isaiah, Ani Hashem koreticha b'tzedek, v'achzek b'yodecha, v'etzarcha, v'etna lebrit am la'or goyim. I, Hashem, have called you, source number 9, I, Hashem, have called you in righteousness, and will hold your hand. I want to hold your hand. Remember that song? God says, I want to hold your hand, and I will keep you and give you for a covenant of the people, for a light to the nations. We are supposed to be la'or goyim. Our tafkid for being is to be a light to the nations, not to rule over them, but to what? To show them the light. But before we can be a light unto the nations, we have to be a light unto what? Ourselves, right? Remember that song, you light up my life, you give me hope. So we are the light and the hope of mankind. The Jew is the eternal optimist. Right? Now look at source number 10. This is from Jonathan Sachs' commentary, the Yom Kippur Machzor. Source number 10. There seems to be this dichotomy in Judaism. Judaism is only for us, or is it for all mankind? You know, other religions say, Ray, my way or the highway. The only religion that doesn't say my way or the highway is what? The true religion. Judaism says, Judaism for Jews, and for non-Jews, keep the 7, go to heaven. There's one person in Chumash that's called a tzaddik tamim. He's not even Jewish. Noach ish tzaddik tamim, a perfect tzaddik. And he wasn't even Jewish. So what's the message? You don't have to be Jewish, what? To be a tzaddik. So Judaism for Jews, Noachite, the oldest religion of mankind is not Judaism. What was it? Noachitism. Abraham and Noach didn't practice Judaism. They practiced Noachitism. So look at source number 10. Universality and particularity are the center of Judaism. No other great faith has this structure. See that? Universality and particularity are at the center of Judaism. There seems to be this dichotomy. No other great faith has this structure. There is a relationship with God that we share with others. He's our God. But there's a relationship with God unique to the Jewish people. He's not just our God, He's the God of all mankind. At times, Jews have tended to forget one or other of these truths, but they are both true. That what? That He's not only our God, but He's what? The God of all mankind. It looks like Yonah forgot that. And perhaps that's why he ran. And we'll see soon. So, Judaism is for Jews, but it's the same God that created all mankind. God created all mankind, but only we are called what? B'ni b'chori Yisrael. The first message that God introduced Himself to Pharaoh, B'ni b'chori Yisrael. My child, my firstborn is Israel. Exodus 4. A person can have many children, can only be one firstborn. Right? A person can have many children, but one firstborn. So Exodus 4, God tells Pharaoh through Moses, B'ni, my child, b'chori, my firstborn is Israel. All mankind are God's children, but only the Jewish people are called what? God's B'chor. B'chor is special. There can only be one firstborn, right? That's why we're so hated. They know that we are God's firstborn. So it's the jealousy and the envy that causes all of this sinah. So sometimes Jews forget that He's not just our God, but He's the God of all mankind. Perhaps Yonah forgot that, and that's why he what? He ran. Look at side number 2. Side number 2. Yonah forgot that God's compassion extends to all nations. We say in the Ashrei, V'rachamov al kol ma'asav. God's compassion is not just for the Jewish people. See side number 2, you'll say, V'rachamov al kol ma'asav. God's compassion is what? On all of His creatures, not just the Jewish people. Now, let's read side number 2, Yonah Perik Dalet. You see that? Side number 2, Yonah Perik Dalet. Vayer el Yonah v'ira gadol yichalo. Yonah was very upset that what? That God spared the city. Yonah was a victim of his own success. How do you say that in English? Look at Pasuk Bet. Vayispalel al Hashem v'yomer ona Hashem. Please God, haloi zeh devarai. When I was still in my land, I ran to Tarshish because I know ki ato el chanun v'rachum erech apayim v'rav chesed v'nichm l'ra. God, I know you're a sugar daddy. And I didn't want your compassion and love should extend to what? To non-Jews. Because I know you're a sugar daddy, Hashem, and therefore I ran. Now he wants to die. Side number 2, Pasuk Gimel. Va'ata Hashem. What does he say? Kach noas nafshi. Take my life. I'd rather die. Bathsheba is a victim of his own success. Why is he so upset for? Now, Pasuk Dalet. You see that? Vayoyim Hashem. Hehetiv chorelach. God says, take a pill and lie down. Are you right to be upset? What are you upset about? Pasuk Hey, Vayetze Yonah min ha'ir. Yonah left the city. Vayeshev ha'mokam le'ir, bikedem le'ir. Vayaslo what? Vayaslo sham sukkah. He builds a sukkah. Why do we need to know that for? This happened 2,800 years ago. I need to know that he builds a sukkah. Vayeshev tachteha. He sat in the shade to see what's going to happen. Perhaps the city will be destroyed anyway. Pasuk Vav, Vayiman Hashem Elokim Kikiyon. Kikayon. A kikayon means what? A castor oil plant. Gee. Vayal me'al Yonah, lias tzala rosho. So it gave him shade. Vayismach Yonah kikiyon. Yonah was very happy that God supplied him a castor oil plant to protect him from the fierce sun. Simcha Gedolah. He was overjoyed that he has shade now. What happened to Pasuk Zayin? Hashem summoned a worm in the morning to what? To attack the kikion, and it dried up and it died. You hear? So now he lost his protection. Now the sun was beating down on his head, and he couldn't take it. He was going to die of sunstroke. Why do you need to know over and over again, kikion, hakikion, hakikion? Who cares what kind of plant that it was that the Navi has to tell me? You know, Tanakh is not a history book. Tanakh is God's GPS. So who cares what kind of plant it was? So look at Pasuk Tet. Vayoyim Elokim el Yonah. God says to Yonah, Heitev charelach ala kikion. Is it right that you're upset about the castor oil plant? Vayoyim, he says, Heitev chareli ad maves. I'm so upset, I want to die. So Hashem says, listen to yourself. In Pasuk Yud. Vayoyim Hashem, Ata chasachta ala kikion. You have rachmanis on the castor oil plant that you didn't plant, you didn't bother with it. It grew up in one night and it was finished in one night. And yet you're so upset about the castor oil plant, Yonah. Pasuk Yud Vani loy achus al Ninveh, and I should not have compassion on what? On the city Ninveh, Irak Dolah, the great city. Asher yesh ba harbe mishtei mesrei biboy adam. There are more than how many? 120,000 people. Asher lo yoda bein minoy l'smol. They don't know what? The difference between the right and the left. Ubehema rabba, and many animals. You have compassion for the castor oil plant, which you didn't plant. You had nothing to do with it. It came one day and left the other day. And God says, I shouldn't have compassion on a huge city with 120,000 people, men, women, and children, that don't know the right from the left, and many animals? What do you mean don't know the right from the left? What does that mean? They're brainwashed by METV. They think that the worst evil is what? Is good. They think that evil is good and good is what? Evil. They're brainwashed. They're brainwashed. So my humble opinion, what's a castor oil plant? When we were kids, didn't our mothers give us castor oil when we couldn't go to the bathroom? Huh? She's going to get constipated. So I think the message is to Yonah, don't be so uptight. Loosen up. Have some compassion even for non-Jews. You hear this? Have compassion for all people, even the LGBT community. LGBT community, what does it stand for? Ligbit, Lubavitch, Ger, Breslov, and Tells. But Hashem was telling him, these people, even though they're doing wrong, they're brainwashed. They don't know right from wrong. So why are you so harsh with them? Show them some compassion. You hear? It's a little warm in here. You mind telling you to turn on the air conditioner? It's a little warm, no? You're not warm? You're not warm? Okay. As long as I don't fall asleep, I'm fine, okay? We'll keep you awake, okay? So, Yonah's flight. Who was Yonah? The Talmud says, remember Eliyahu Hanavi resurrected a dead child? That dead child was what? Eliyahu Hanavi. What? I'm testing, see if you're awake, all right? Eliyahu Hanavi resurrected the dead child, and that dead child was what? Yonah. His Talmud Elisha also resurrected a dead child, and that dead child was the prophet Habakkuk. Habakkuk, because Elisha told the Shunammite, in another year's time, At choveket ben. What does that mean? You will be hugging a child. So the dead child of the Shunammite woman grew up to be the prophet Habakkuk. And the dead child that Eliyahu Hanavi resurrected grew up to be the prophet Yonah. So where is he running? Where is he running? Doesn't he know that what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu controls the power of life and death? He was the resurrected child. A rush is called a dead person in Hebrew, right? So where is he trying to escape? You can run, but you can't hide. Remember that song? Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, right? So Yonah didn't want to go to them because he saw b'nevuah that 100 years later, these Ninevites will exile the 10 tribes. So I should be the instrument of the destruction of the 10 tribes. Let them, what? Be destroyed. So therefore, 100 years later, they won't exile the 10 tribes into Galut. That's what he thought. That's why he what? He felt responsible for Israel's safety, so he ran to protect Klal Yisrael. But God says, I also know that. But I want you to go to them and give them the message of tshuva. Even though 100 years later, they will exile the 10 tribes. So don't be smarter than God. God also knows that, right? So he ran to protect and defend Am Yisrael. That's why he ran, right? Now, Yonah tries to escape in 3 ways. He disguises himself on the ship, number 1, right? On the ship, he goes to sleep. When people are depressed, they want to escape life, what do? They go to sleep. Yonah's in denial. He wants to escape from reality. And what's the third ultimate escape? Death. Suicide. Doesn't Yonah say, throw me overboard? Mm-hmm. That's the ultimate escapism. Right? Throw me overboard, he said. Now, the Talmud says other ships were not affected by Hurricane Yonah. Amazing. The only ship that was affected by Hurricane Yonah was what? That ship where Yonah was on the love boat. All the other ships were sailing peacefully. And the Navi says each prayed to their own gods. Everybody prayed to their idol. What was Yonah doing? Sleeping. Yonah was sleeping. Why was he sleeping? Because he wanted to die. The captain asked Yonah, Malacha Mirdam, why are you sleeping? Come, get up and cry to your God. Who was the captain? Chano, the captain of the love boat. Who is the captain? The captain asks us, Malacha Mirdam, why are we sleeping? Yom Kippur is coming up, Batsheva. Now is not the time to sleep. Now is the time to wake up and what? And do tshuva. So the captain of the ship speaking to Yonah, but it's actually HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to all of us. The captain of the universe. Oh captain, my captain, Malacha Mirdam. Get up and cry out to Hashem. But he doesn't pray. He wants to die. Throw me overboard. That's the greatest act of what? Of escapism. Right? Now, it's just amazing Yonah had to be on that ship. If you read the book later on, it says the sailors, when they saw the great miracle, what happened with Yonah, and the sea calming itself, they all became what? They all became Gerim. I know Gerim to Judaism, but they became keep the 7, go to heaven. They all took vows and they became Gerim. Doesn't mean Gerim to Judaism. Ger like Wendell Jones, keep the 7, go to heaven. So it's just amazing that Yonah had to be on that love boat to save the sailors. If it wasn't for Yonah, the miracle that happened with Yonah, those sailors would have remained pagans. Since he was on that love boat, he influenced the sailors. They all became righteous Gentiles. So he had to run to be on that boat. What about Yonah's free will? If he would have listened to God and not run away, Rabbi Yaakov, he never would have been on that love boat. Those pagans would have remained pagans. So how would they ever do tshuva? I have free will. But Rabbi Kaplan Zatzal said, how does free will work with God's foreknowledge? If God has foreknowledge, how do I have free will? So Rabbi Kaplan Zatzal says, free will, you're playing chess with the Grand Master. When you play chess with the Grand Master, you are moving independently. But somehow the Grand Master has a way to what? To control the game. So even though Yonah had free will to run or not to run, but Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Grand Master, what's the word, manipulated or maneuvered that he would run Dafka on this love boat to turn these pagans around. These pagan sailors became righteous Gentiles. So you never know. You wind up in a place you weren't scheduled to be there, eh? Your plane got delayed, and you wound up in there was a storm, whatever, and you landed in some airport that you weren't supposed to be there. You're supposed to be there. To make a minyan or to say a kind word to somebody. You didn't plan to go there, but you wound up there. It's not a coincidence. Hashem, the Grand Master, manipulated that you should be there. You're needed there. Now, the great storm, Hurricane Yonah. He's a righteous tzaddik. He's a navi. He's on the boat with those sailors. Now, sailors are not the most moral people. Remember the movie with the sailors there? Sailor Sam? So, he's on the boat with sailors. Sailors are not such good, moral, or upright people. And he tells the captain, B'sheli hasar hagodal hazeh aleichem. This hurricane about to destroy the ship, B'sheli, what does that mean? It's my fault. Rav Aaron Kotler Zatzal says, why it's my fault? I'm a Haredi Navi of Hashem. I speak to God. He's on the ship with a bunch of pagan idol worshippers. Why does he assume that the catastrophe, Shelley, is because of him? And more important, what's the message for me? Tanakh is not a history book. Says of Aaron Kotler, Zecher Tzal Yavracha, when a tragedy, Lo Yaleinu, comes, Lo Yaleinu, the Jewish community, the frum Jew should not point fingers at the non-frum Jews or at non-Jews. The frum Jew has to point to himself. B'sheli hasar hagodal hazeh aleichem. Isn't that incredible? It's not the fault of the non-Jew or the non-religious Jew. They don't know any better. It's the fault of the person that studied, that knows better. So don't point fingers at the reform, at the conservative. It's my fault. That's what the Navi Yonah is teaching us. So he said, it's my fault. And therefore he says what? Throw me overboard. He's willing to sacrifice his life to save the Jewish people. Because if he rehabilitates them, 100 years later they're going to what? Destroy the Jewish people. He's willing to sacrifice his own life that they should not be rehabilitated. They should what? Be destroyed, and the Jewish people will be spared. Like Moshe Rabbeinu told God, "Mecheni lo b'sifrecha." Take me and spare the Jewish people. Now, all of us are Yonah. We're racked with self-doubt. We're trying to run away from our responsibilities. The flight of the Yonah. The Yonah, in Shir HaShirim, what does God call the Jewish people? My Yonah. My Yonah, right? The Jewish people try to run away, but in the end, we always come back to Hashem, right? Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. So we read the book of Yonah on Yom Kippur, that even non-Jews who have no Yom Kippur, God is willing to accept their tshuva. How much more is God willing to accept my tshuva? I do have a Yom Kippur. If God wants a tshuva from non-Jewish pagans, how much more does he want tshuva from me? I'm called his firstborn child. B'ni b'char b'Yisrael. It gives a Jew, how do you say chizuk in English? Courage that his tshuva will be accepted on Yom Kippur. All of us have a unique destiny that only we can fulfill. Why did Yonah? There are many other prophets would have taken the job. Yonah didn't want the job. So there are many prophets that will gladly do it. What's the message? If I won't do it, nobody can do it my way. Da-da-da-da. The Mishnah says, Im eina nili mili. Mishnah Avos. Im eina nili mili. If I don't do it, who can do it? Every person is put down here with a unique mission that only he can do. How do I know that? Look at my fingerprints, Batsheva. Do you have my fingerprints? Can I have your fingerprints? Can we change? Just like my fingerprints are unique, my mission in life is unique. How many? 7 billion people on earth? Yeah. Do 2 people have the same fingerprints? No. Why not? I don't Tell me why not? There are no 2 people have the similar fingerprints to teach that no 2 people have the same mission. Wow. God doesn't run out of fingerprints and he doesn't run out of missions. No one can do it my way. So if Yonah's not going to do it, it won't get done. So God couldn't leave him alone. Yonah Yorat, he went down into the hold of the ship. He fell into a deep sleep. The deep sleep, it's a yerida, but then he came up. So it's a message in life. We all go down. But when we go down, we should not be too harsh on ourselves. Because every yerida could be what? The tzorech aliyah. When we go down, it's a chance to what? To come back higher again. The best part of breaking up is making up. Think of it, right? These Aseres Yemei Tshuvas are time to what? To make up with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We've had our ups and downs, but these 10 days is to make up with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So my tafkid, only I can do. Im ein anili, says the Mishnah Mili, no one else can do it. No one else can do it my way. So just like Yonah tried to run from his destiny, but in the end he couldn't, he was forced to what? Do his mission. So to every person tries to run away from their responsibility, but in the end, God says, you can pay me now, or you can pay me later. If we don't do it now, God will recycle us. Gilgal. It's amazing that the book of Yonah, according to Kabbalah, is every person. The soul tries to, Yonah, the bird, the soul tries to fly away and not do its mission. But in the end, it's what? It's forced to do its mission. Yonah gets put into the belly of Moby Dick. It's dark, it's dank, it's cold there. What does it remind you of? A grave. A grave. So the Kabbalah teaches the book of Yonah is every person who tries to run away from his mission. So he's put into the belly of Moby Dick, he's put into a kever. Dark, cold, and dank. And then, just like Yonah came out of the belly of the beast, we are reincarnated because God cannot afford to give up on any Jewish soul. You can pay me now, or you can pay me later. To do your mission. Yonah thought he could escape. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. We all think we can escape our mission. So the Kabbalah teaches, the book of Yonah, a person dies and his mission is not accomplished, God will recycle him or rejuvenate him. Gilgal, to bring him back in order to do his mission. You cannot escape your destiny. That's the book of Yonah.
I love it.
That's the book of Yonah. So many people, like Yonah, are sleeping through the storm. Right? There's a storm raging outside. What is Yonah doing? He's sleeping. Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Andrew, and Maria, earthquake, and the Jewish people in the diaspora are what? Are sleeping. Hello. So the captain says, Malachon Nirdam. Why are you sleeping, Jewish people? Wake up, it's time to what? I'm coming home, I'm coming home. It's time to come back to Eretz Yisrael. What a message. What a message. There are none so blind as those who will not see. The storm is raging, anti-Semitism, what's going on in the world, catastrophes, disasters, Harvey, Irma, earthquakes, and the Jewish people in the diaspora are like Yonah. They're what? They're asleep at the wheel. Some people just don't get it. Let's get the message and come home. Yonah finally got the message. The captain told him. The captain is speaking to us. Who's the captain, Rabbi Yaakov? Who? Hashem. He's the, oh captain, my captain. He's the captain. What a powerful message in the book of Yonah. Powerful message. Now, Yom Kippur night, we begin with Kol Nidre. We confess that we broke our vows. There are worse sins than breaking a vow, wearing shatnez, eating non-kosher. Why do we focus in on breaking our vows? Many sins that I did. Why do you focus Kol Nidre, all the vows that I broke, I want to know? What about all the other sins I did? Why do we zero in, Shelley, on Kol Nidre? You hear the question on the table?
Yeah, I always saw
Why?
The ones that were grabbed, like they had to convert and they didn't want to. They were really
the Moranos. But still, why do we say Kol Nidre today? There are other sins that we did. So the Zohar Kodesh says something incredible. I know you like the Zohar. Every sin that we do, we're also breaking our vow. We all vowed Nasa v'Nishma. At Sinai, if I wasn't there in body, I was there what? In spirit. My neshama said Nasa v'Nishma. Remember? I remember. So every sin you do, Michael, we're also what? Breaking a vow. Nasa v'Nishma. So therefore, we begin the tshuva process with what? Every sin I did also includes breaking. I vowed that I would keep the Torah and not do the Averot. So every sin you do also includes breaking your vow. So you begin the tshuva process with what? With Kol Nidre. Every sin includes breaking your vow. We all vowed Nasa v'Nishma. If not in body, we were there what? In spirit. Now we do something very strange on Yom Kippur. Chatanu lefanecha rachem aleinu. Oh, shamnu, bogadnu, ay, 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 ay. I'm a low-life traitor, bum, no good Nick, ay, 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 ay. What are you singing about? Chatanu lefanecha. Hide your head in shame. Why are you singing about your sins for? Shouldn't you be ashamed? Chatanu, ay, 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 ay. Oh, shamnu, I am a traitor. Gazalnu, I'm a thief. I spoke Lashon Hara,
Because you have to make it.
Why are you singing? Hide your head in shame. So the Chassam Sofer says, you know why you're singing? You know why? Because on Yom Kippur I'm doing tshuva mehava. If you do tshuva mehava, all of those sins are now recycled what? That's something to sing about, said the Chassam Sofer. Look how much God loves me. On Yom Kippur, I'm doing tshuva because I love God, not because of fear. But Shana, I do tshuva because I'm fear, trembling for the king. But Yom Kippur is the Abba Rachaman, the loving Abba Ve'ima. I'm doing tshuva because I love him. So all of my sins are what now? Mitzvahs. Yuma, page 86, you do tshuva mehava, all of your averat become mitzvahs. That's something to sing about. Isn't that incredible? The Chassam Sofer says that. Now, it's something amazing. On Yom Kippur morning, we read about the Kohen Gadol, the Holy of Holies. That makes sense. Because when did the Kohen Gadol walk in the Holy of Holies? When? Yom Kippur. So it's pashut to read Yom Kippur, the Holy of Holies, the holy service that he does, that took place on Yom Kippur. But Yom Kippur afternoon, we read something bizarre. We read the Parsha of Gili Arayot.
Yeah.
Sexual immorality.
Yeah.
Isn't that bizarre?
No.
What? In the morning, you read about the Holy of Holies. And in the afternoon, you read about sexual immorality.
God won't
Huh?
tolerate it. He won't tolerate it.
But on Yom Kippur, who's thinking about sex? Even if you wanted to sin, you have no koyach to sin. Who'd want to sin with you anyway? Bad breath, couldn't spritz yourself. Who has koyach to sin anyway? Who'd want to sin with you anyway? What are you reading about sexual immorality for? Doesn't seem to make any sense.
That's true.
You have koyach on Yom Kippur to sin if you wanted to? You don't smell so good anyway. She'd run away from you. What's the message? Says the great Rav Soloveitchik. He says something. In life, you can't be stuck in neutral. You can't be satisfied with the spiritual status quo. Yaakov saw a ladder. He saw angels going up and going down. Who are the angels? In a ladder, Chanoch, nobody takes a coffee break in a ladder. If you're not climbing up, you're automatically climbing down. Says the great Rav Soloveitchik, in spiritual matters, greed is great. In physical matters, greed is no good. Physical matters, be happy with your lot. But in spiritual matters, you can't be happy with your lot. Because if you're not progressing, you're automatically what? Regressing. So the great Rav Soloveitchik, if you're not headed in the direction of the Holy of Holies, you might not get there. But that's not your goal in life. If you're not headed in the Holy of Holies, you become complacent, then you're headed the other way, all the way down to sexual immorality. There's no status quo in spiritual matters. We have to choose, says Rav Soloveitchik, Yom Kippur. Do you choose? Which Torah reading do you want? Yom Kippur morning reading that's about the Holy of Holies? Or Chas V'Sholom, if you're not headed in that direction, if you want to coast and cruise, you'll wind up Nebuch into sexual immorality. There's no sitting on the fence on Yom Kippur. There's no being complacent. The Jewish people, 40 years after the Exodus, they saw all of the great miracles for 40 years. The magic clouds of glory, the man, the quail, the magic, all the miracles. And then the Jewish people came to a place and they began to commit sexual immorality with the wild Moabite women. How could it be? 40 years they saw such miracles, splitting of the Red Sea, the giving of the Torah, Dan quail, the mun, the magic clouds, the Amalekite, how could they begin to commit harlotry? It says, Vayeshev Yisrael Bashitim. It says the Gemara Megillah, Vayeshev. What does Vayeshev mean? To rest on your laurels. If you become complacent in spiritual matters, I steiged enough. How do you say that? I steiged enough. I'll take a break. Then it's a slippery slope all the way down to the wild Moabite women. And the more spiritual a person is, once he takes a what? A break, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. Since these Jewish people are such a high level in the Midbar, once they became Vayeshev, how do you say that in English? Complacent. They began to rest on their laurels. I'll take a break. Then you're vulnerable to the wild Moabite women. In spiritual matters, you cannot take a coffee break. If you're not climbing up the ladder, Yaakov saw, then you automatically what? Climbing down. In life, you can't be stuck in neutral. Spiritual status quo, you think that, you'll wind up Nebuch with the Benot Moab, Lo Yaleinu, or the reading in the Yom Kippur afternoon. Sexual immorality, very strange. Now, what's the Ikar of Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur seems to be all about what? Between man and God, right? Yom Kippur is all about man. You're praying all day, you have no contact with, right? But there's the Haftorah that we read Yom Kippur morning. Yeshayahu Nun Zayin. Yom Kippur morning, which you think is the quintessential day between man and what? God. God tell you, Nikimia, you're cooking with gas. I still got 50. I got to talk fast. Yeshayahu Nun Zayin. The Yom Kippur morning reading. Everybody knows the afternoon reading Yonah, but there's a Yom Kippur morning reading.
What are we reading?
I'll tell you. I'm glad you asked. Isaiah 57. Halo zeh tzom efchoreu. This is the fast of Yom Kippur that I choose. Halo poras ro'ev lachmecha. Share your bread with the hungry. On Yom Kippur, you think it's all about man and what? God. God tells Isaiah 57, Haftorah reading in the morning, this is the fast that I choose. Share your food with those less fortunate. Even on Yom Kippur, it's all you and God. You're supposed to focus on what? On your fellow human being. If he's hungry or he needs something, even on Yom Kippur, you're supposed to turn to him. On Yom Kippur, Masha. Isaiah 57. God says, the fast that I choose, share your bread with the hungry and the destitute. All days of Yom Kippur, Zisel? Strange. What's even stranger, when the Lubavitcher Rebbe became Rebbe, you can Google it maybe, the first Sikha he gave as a Rebbe, the first Sikha he gave to kick off his, how do you say, Rebbeship?
Whatever.
He told the story called Nidre Night. If I get a little emotional, you'll excuse me.
Okay.
You can look it up in the first Sikha. We still got time. Where was I? Called Nidre Night.
Yeah.
The whole shul is waiting for the Balatanya. He's not there. It's late. It's Yom Tov, Yom Kippur. The Balatanya doesn't show up for Yom Kippur.
Who's that, the Rebbe?
The Balatanya, the Rebbe of the Rebbe, the first Lubavitcher Rebbe. They went looking for him. Where can the Rebbe be on Yom Kippur night? Where'd they find him? That's a Shos Halanter. Don't mix me up. That's another story. There was a Jewish girl in the town of Ladia who had an affair with a non-Jew. And she gave birth to a baby. Her own parents threw her out. She had an affair with a non-Jew. In those days, a Jewish maidel in a small town, they're all from, she had an affair with a non-Jew. She gave birth to a baby right before Yom Kippur.
A boy?
A baby. Her own parents threw her out.
The Rebbe went there.
Don't steal my thunder, Ray.
Sorry.
So she took up in some barn with her little baby. The Balatanya himself built a fire for her to heat her, to give her warmth. He cooked for her and the baby to feed them on Yom Kippur night.
That's fabulous.
Rebbe, couldn't you find a non-Jew to do it? Send your chusset to do it? The Bavitch Rebbe told this story the day he became Rebbe. Yom Kippur is all about to have compassion on every Jew. Bekuach nefesh doicha kol haTorah kula. A person's life, the life of the mother and the baby is in danger. Her own parents threw her out. No one's going to give her anything. Oh, she's a sinner. She and the baby will die. The Balatanya himself was Mechala Yom Kippur. He chopped wood, he cooked, he built a fire. Because what's greater than Yom Kippur? Saving a Jewish life, even of a sinner, is much greater than Yom Kippur.
Gorgeous.
He didn't give it to a chassid. He himself did it.
Gorgeous.
Isn't that on Yom Kippur? Why didn't he send a chassid to do it? Because I don't want to give that mitzvah to nobody else. Maybe the chassid wouldn't do it. I'm going to do it for that sinful lady. Let her starve.
He felt it was his responsibility.
He knew better. He knew better that a Jew, no matter how sinful, God's love is unconditional. And He loves us unconditionally. And that's Lubavitch Rebbe's kickoff drasha at his Sicha. You can Google it. Every Jew is precious and beloved to God, sinner or non-sinner. His love is unconditional. And if his life is in danger, you have to desecrate Yom Kippur 100 times to save him. This is from the Balatanya. Now let me tell you from Rav Soloveitchik, Zeichat Tzadik Levracha. Rav Soloveitchik told this story from his father, the grandfather of Chaim Soloveitchik. Okay? I wouldn't repeat it unless I heard it. I have the tape where he said it. Kol Nidre night, it's already Yontif. They're not davening. Rav Chaim says don't daven. He goes to the bima, he gives a clap. He said this Jewish communist, a Jewish communist in those days was a real Russia, right?
Yeah.
Banish. It's on Rav Soloveitchik's tape, otherwise I wouldn't repeat it. The name of his grandfather Chaim. He says this Jewish communist, Yankel Shmerel, has been arrested by the Tsar's police. He's waiting in the dungeon here. Now if you don't, the Tsar's police, if you give them money, let him out. Otherwise they're going to kill him. We're not davening, Kol Nidre. Everybody go home. Bring me as much money and valuables as you have on Yom Kippur. Put it here on my table. Yom Kippur night.
I'm crying. It's gorgeous.
They said, Rebbe, this guy's a Russia, a Jewish communist. That's a Russia. He said, I'm the rabbi in Brisk. You do what I say, otherwise we're not going to daven at all. He waited. People went home on Yom Kippur. They carried their money. They put it. Rav Yoshe Ber tells this from his father, the grand Rav Chaim. Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, Yom Kippur night, takes the bundle of money down to the police station and what? And redeems this Jewish renegade.
Wow.
Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, not a chassid. What do you see, Reb Chanoch? What's Yom Kippur all about?
That's gorgeous.
Bein Odom lechaveroi. God says, you want to please me? Please a fellow Jew. Because we all have a chelik. We read on Pashas Azino, right, Reb Gershom? Ki chelik Hashem amo. Yesterday's reading. Ki chelik Hashem amo. What does that mean? God is a portion of His people. Every one of us carries a piece of God in him. We all have a chelik Elohai bimal. We all have a tzelem Elohim. We all have a piece of God in us. So when you please a fellow Jew, who are you also pleasing? God. And when you hurt a fellow Jew, you're hurting God. That's just incredible. This idea goes so far. Baruch Hashem have the Rabbi Sprecher tapes. So he says, in Medayik in the Rambam, when you sin against God, the vidus ono chatosi lefanecha. When you sin against God, you eat a cheeseburger, machal Shabbos, the vidus chatosi lefanecha. I have sinned in front of you, God. God is not affected. If we in machal Shabbos eat a cheeseburger, who do we hurt? Ourselves. He's not affected. So the vidu ben adam lamakam is chatosi lefanecha. But when you sin against a fellow Jew, says the Rambam, hachote lechaveroi, he says, chatosi lashem ulaploini. What does that mean? Chatosi lashem ulaploini. You sin against God, you're hurting lefanecha. You're not hurting God, you sin in front of him, but he's not affected. But when you sin against a fellow Jew, the Rambam says, chatosi lashem ulaploini. How did I sin against God? I sinned against John Doe. So why does the Vidu say chatosi lashem ulaploini? I sinned against God and to this Jew. Says Rav Soloveitchik, when you sin against God, you don't hurt another Jew, God is not affected. You're only hurting yourself. But when you sin against a fellow Jew, you're hurting God.
Wow.
The pasuk, Imo anoichi betzara, Psalm 91. Imo anoichi betzara. Imo anoichi betzara. God says, I feel the pain of every Jew. And he tells Isaiah, B'chol tzarasam, lo tzar. In all of a Jew's suffering, lo with a vav. Lo with a vav means what? To him is tzar. So therefore the Rambam says, when you sin against God, it's lefanecha. Look at the vidui. When you sin against a fellow Jew, it's chatosi lashem, not lefanecha. Lashem. You sin against God and against the fellow Jew, because you sin against the part of God that lives inside that person. So when you hurt a fellow Jew, you're hurting God himself. So a sin against a fellow Jew is much worse. It's a twofer. And a mitzvah against a fellow Jew is twice as good. Because you're pleasing the fellow Jew, and you're pleasing what? Pleasing God. That's something incredible. When we do Kiddush Levana, when you do Kiddush Levana, in the middle of Kiddush Levana, we turn to a fellow Jew and we say what? Shalom Aleichem.
When do we do it?
We'll do it Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur we'll do it, right? So why Yom Kippur night? So why in the middle of Kiddush Levana you do Shalom Aleichem? What do with price of tea in China? What's the connection? Gemara in Sanhedrin 42 says if you do Kiddush Levana, it's ki'ilu mekabel panei Ashchina. It's like you're receiving God's presence. You're not really receiving God's presence. We're not moon worshippers. We're praising God through his handiwork. What's the closest heavenly body? Blue moon. So when you're doing Kiddush Levana, it's ki'ilu mekabel panei Ashchina. It's as if you're receiving God's presence, but you're not really receiving God's presence. It's make-believe. But says the Maral, when you turn to a fellow Jew with a shmeichel and a shalom aleichem, it's mekabel panei Ashchina. It's not ki'ilu. You know what I just said? If you smile on a fellow Jew and give him a shalom aleichem, who are you greeting?
God.
You're greeting God. You're greeting the person and the part of God that lives inside of him. So in the middle of Kiddush Levana, you turn to a fellow Jew with a shalom aleichem. No, some people just can't smile. They're like constipated. It doesn't hurt, doesn't cost no money to smile. When you smile on a fellow Jew, you're smiling on a Kodesh Baruch Hu. So, thank you very much.